There's something your kidneys are doing tonight that almost nobody explains to you at your annual checkup, and it changes what you should be eating in the hour before you sleep. While you rest, these two organs beneath your rib cage keep working, filtering your blood, adjusting your blood pressure, clearing out the waste your body produced all day long, and the food sitting in your stomach during that window either helps that process along or makes it harder. Tonight, I want to walk you through what the research actually shows about fruit and kidney health after 60, because there's real nuance here that most videos skip past, and skipping it does you a disservice. Before we get into it, subscribe if you find this useful, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are. I read through these every week, and they shape what I cover next. Your kidneys are small, each one roughly the size of a fist, and together they filter about 50 gallons of blood every single day. That's an enormous amount of continuous work, and it means what you eat has more influence on kidney function than most people assume. The National Kidney Foundation explains that potassium is essential for normal nerve, muscle, and heart function, but people with reduced kidney function can struggle to clear excess potassium from their blood, which is why fruit choice matters more as kidney function changes. This creates a real tension. Many of the fruits richest in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, the ones that could genuinely help slow the oxidative stress linked to kidney decline, are also higher in potassium, which limits how freely they can be eaten once kidney function has declined. The fruits I'm covering tonight are ones the National Kidney Foundation classifies as lower potassium options, which is why they come up so often in kidney-conscious eating discussions. Let's start with tart cherries, because the research behind them is more specific than most people realize. The National Kidney Foundation notes that tart cherries contain natural compounds, including a plant-based form of melatonin, that may support a healthy sleep cycle, and sour cherries are classified as a low-potassium fruit suitable across all stages of kidney disease. There's a reason nighttime matters here specifically. Blood pressure is supposed to dip during sleep, a pattern doctors call nocturnal dipping. And when sleep is poor quality, that dip doesn't happen the way it should, which means your kidneys spend more hours under elevated pressure than they need to. Research published through the National Institutes of Health has looked at melatonin and related compounds in tart cherries and found associations with improved sleep quality in older adults, including one study in adults with insomnia showing meaningful improvement compared to a placebo. Half a cup of tart cherries, or a small glass of unsweetened tart cherry juice, 30 to 60 minutes before bed, is a reasonable amount to start with. Blueberries deserve a place here too, and not just because they're popular. The National Kidney Foundation lists blueberries as a good source of fiber, vitamin C, and antioxidants, with a half-cup serving containing under 150 milligrams of potassium, low enough to be considered safe across all stages of kidney disease. What makes blueberries specifically useful is a class of compounds called anthocyanins, which research has linked to reduced cardiovascular risk, and cardiovascular health and kidney health share more biological overlap than people expect, since the same inflammatory processes tend to affect both. For someone managing kidney concerns in their 60s or 70s, a fruit that supports both systems at once without adding potassium burden is worth having in rotation. Strawberries are worth mentioning next because they're one of the lowest potassium fruits available at roughly 130 milligrams per half cup, according to National Kidney Foundation guidance, which makes them appropriate even for people managing more advanced kidney concerns. Beyond potassium, strawberries are a strong source of vitamin C and manganese, and some research has associated strawberry intake with increased markers of antioxidant capacity in the blood, which relates to the oxidative stress that contributes to kidney decline over time. A half cup, rinsed and eaten whole, works well as a light evening addition, and pairing it with a small amount of plain yogurt makes for a more filling snack without adding much potassium. Apples are probably the most overlooked fruit on this list, mostly because they seem too ordinary to matter. But the National Kidney Foundation notes apples are low in potassium, phosphorus and sodium, while still delivering meaningful fiber and antioxidants, particularly when the peel is left on, since much of the antioxidant content lives there. For older adults, managing both blood sugar and kidney health together, which is an extremely common combination, the fiber in a whole apple slows how quickly sugar enters the bloodstream, which matters more overnight than people realize. One medium apple, eaten slowly, with the peel intact, is a simple addition that doesn't require any special preparation. Grapes surprise a lot of people when they learn these are considered kidney-friendly, since grapes don't get talked about as often as berries. The National Kidney Foundation groups grapes among the lower potassium fruit options, and red and purple varieties in particular contain resveratrol, a compound concentrated in the skin that's been studied for its role in supporting healthy blood vessels. For anyone managing fluid restrictions, frozen grapes are worth knowing about specifically since they take longer to eat, feel satisfying and cooling, and don't add the fluid volume that a drink would. A small handful, around half a cup, is a sensible portion. Raspberries carry more fiber per serving than almost anything else on this list, roughly 4 grams in just half a cup, and that fiber does real work beyond digestion. It feeds beneficial bacteria in the gut, which produce compounds linked to lower systemic inflammation, and a growing body of kidney research has connected gut health to the pace of kidney function decline. Fiber also slows how quickly phosphorus from other foods gets absorbed, which matters since phosphorus management is one of the harder parts of eating well with reduced kidney function. Half a cup, fresh or frozen, works well on its own or mixed with tart cherries for a more complete evening bowl. Pineapple is the fruit people are most surprised to see here, since it's tropical and acidic and doesn't fit the typical picture of kidney-friendly food. But National Kidney Foundation guidance classifies pineapple as a low-potassium choice, and fresh pineapple specifically contains bromelain, a natural enzyme studied for its anti-inflammatory properties, along with small amounts of tryptophan that may contribute to a more relaxed evening state. Fresh pineapple retains meaningfully more bromelain than canned, since canning involves heat processing that breaks much of it down, so fresh is worth prioritizing here specifically. None of this replaces a conversation with your kidney dietitian, especially if you're managing stage 4 or 5 chronic kidney disease, are on dialysis, or take blood thinners, since individual potassium and phosphorus limits vary and only your care team has your actual lab numbers. If you haven't had a basic metabolic panel recently and you're over 60, it's worth asking for one at your next visit, since creatinine and eGFR give you a real starting point rather than a guess. If tonight's video gave you something useful, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are. I read every one of them, and they genuinely shape what I cover here going forward.